Need a motion to go back into the regular meeting of the Board of Education, please?
Make a motion.
Second it, roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Kabuda?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Edsel?
Yes.
Mr. Pete? Yes. Mr. Wexler?
Yes. Please stand for flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll provide my board president report a little later in the proceedings so that we can proceed to the presentations. Mr. Trefler?
Very good. First of all, we're going to recognize one of our outstanding teachers from the high school. And doing that and being recognized by our Lakehurst VFW. So I'm going to introduce you, Mr. Whalen, and Dan will come up and make our presentation and tell them a little bit about what you're recognizing our star teachers for. You can come in here.
Every year,
Okay.
okay. How do you want to do this?
Yeah, you can
Every
go
year.
this way.
Face the audience.
They're working.
From the side.
Probably won't need that. Every year, the VFW in New Jersey, well, throughout the nation, recognizes an outstanding teacher. This year, Veterans of Foreign Wars 10,061 in Lakehurst have chosen Ms. Jill O'Cone, the high school teacher. She's hereby commended and congratulated for her significant and tireless efforts to have an annual Veterans Day recognition ceremony, their annual tributes, and it warms our heart that the youth of today and our future have taken time to honor those who serve for our freedom. If you would like to come up, Matthew.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more just in case. 1, 2, 3.
And this also, check. You spend any way you wish.
I'm just glad I get the chance to show young people with our new Hall of Honor that it really does make a difference to thank those who served. And best wishes to Tom. We have a very special yearbook page this year for those who will be serving, and Tom will be a part of it. And we're very proud of all of our veterans who graduated from Manchester, all those who choose to serve. So thank you.
Thank you. So on behalf of the board, we also want to present you with a certificate of honor. Of course, the program that you run to recognize our veterans is tremendous. And of course, Mr. Pate and I both have sons who are in the military, Marine Corps, U.S. Army. Appreciate all that you've done for that program of recognition. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
The highlight is always the hot. One thing, and they said just about everything they can as far as recognizing Joe, but the one thing I really enjoy about your program, Bill, is you involve the students. And to listen to the students talk about the veterans, and then the veterans just talking to them when they're getting their cake and their coffee, the kids' interests are just, they're riveted on it, they really are. And we do appreciate all of your service, and obviously you recognize them, so thank you.
Thank you. It's my honor. Thank you.
Well, again, this is our annual bowling assembly here, and every year I say this, but I also say, I mean, it's just amazing that every year our bowling team is just able to achieve so much, and our boys and our girls bowling team. But it's easy to forget that this is a new bowling team. This is not the same bowling team as it was last year. So everybody starts at 0-0. So every year they earn that honor. They don't don't automatically get a couple wins because of last year's or the year before. It's a tremendous tradition. And every year I see it, I'm just more and more impressed by not only we have some great bowlers, but we also have a great program, and to start that great program, obviously, is some great coaches. So I'm going to start off by introducing and recognizing Mr. McRae. You can come up, please. Give me your team, because I want to make sure that you don't run out. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have your list there? Because I have a list there.
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I have one for the girls, but
I have the
Coach
coach.
Vargas is
He won't be here, and I have the boys also. So you want to do boys or girls first?
We'll do the boys first.
Oh, you'll do the boys. All right. Here's the boys.
There's only.
Okay, but recognize it currently.
Absolutely. Briefly, not having all their stats as Coach Vargas would, he's kind of a master of that. Kind of jealous sometimes. The boys were able to pull off another B-South Division undefeated victory. And they moved from there to South Jersey Sectionals, where they came out of there first, qualifying for the state tournament. And that was their season. They had some great bowling, some great matches, a lot of close ones.
You guys pretty much bowl at the same time? Or?
Pretty much, yeah. The
So you get to see
sectionals
each
is a
other.
different thing.
Yes.
The matches and the other stuff is usually all, when we go to tournaments, we're all there the same day and that sort of
So
thing.
you kind of pull for each other, and
Oh, absolutely.
a lot of blue and gold that day,
A lot
right?
of blue and gold. And there's only, with all the bowling schools, I think, and somebody can, I think there's only 3 at this point that are blue and gold.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of stand, it's us, Carteret, and somebody else.
North Brunswick.
Yeah.
It's us and-
All good teams too, fortunately. So
It's
you
us
kind
and
of,
2 other teams.
you kind of stand out, huh?
It's us
Well,
and 2 other teams.
Us and 2 other teams. Well, no, those other teams have their days too, believe me.
Okay.
So, okay, but for the boys that are here, let's see, Nick McGinley. Robert Shaw. David Smith. Justin Milano. Tom Wolf. And their captain this year, Michael Sullivan. That's all those.
I squeeze a little, so I'm not getting that in there. Sideways. There you go.
Squeeze in.
Come on, guys. That's good. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Great, thanks.
So I like you guys. This is the official photographer.
Yeah.
That's right. He says, don't move, don't move.
Boys?
Oh, your pins. Your pins.
Just like that.
I might add, the jackets that they're wearing were purchased by the Board of Education to honor their sectional time.
Tom, come on. Tom, come on, back up. Waiting for graduation.
Way to go, Tom!
On the girls' side and with the boys, you mentioned it's a new team every year. And as we graduate some, yes, it does. Next year will be particularly interesting because both the boys' teams and the girls' team are losing half their squad. There's a lot of seniors this year. And so it will definitely be a new experience for all, and hopefully we can maintain our historic.
There's a lot of confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before I start, though, I want to say, and one of the girls isn't here, but it's nice once in a while to see your kids show their other talents. And two of the girls are here tonight. If any of you happen to catch the play this past weekend at the school, Abby Hulse, and where's Kimmy? Kim Smith?
Oh, yeah.
On stage. Yeah. I'm sorry, Lowell. Yeah. Sorry. And Desiree, who's not here tonight, ran the stage crew in charge of that. And so it's nice to see them show championship in other talents also. On the girls' side, for the 4th year in a row, V-South champs, undefeated. We took second at the Shore Conference. For the 10th year in a row, first coming out of South Jersey Sectional. For 8 in a row, our Group 2 state title. And although I argued, we ended up ranked 4th in the state by the Star-Ledger when the season was over. Although we came out of the state tournament 3rd, but that's an argument still to be had. So that was how we finalized our season, and it was a good one. It was a good one. Both the boys and the girls, the sportsmanship all year long, and of course for the graduating seniors, the friendships they've made over the years, they keep them, goes on and on. So, do you want these in the order you gave them to me? Is it easier for you?
It would be easier.
Okay. Okay, no, I just
Throw them up in the air, shuffle them.
I had my own way. Okay. First then, one of our co-captains and senior, she had the highlight in B-South Division Girls this year with a 279 game. Just missed it. Bailey Adams. Freshman Teresa Madaro is not here. A junior new to the club this year. She was a lot of fun. And hopefully she's coming back. And whenever I threaten to start her on varsity, she runs out of the building.
Sophomore.
Sophomore?
Yeah, she's my sophomore.
Good more years.
Got a shot at her.
There you go.
Kyla Bermudez. Good job. Desiree is not here. Another senior and co-captain. And singer extraordinaire, Abby Hulse. senior who we also had the pleasure of having her older sister with us for 4 years a while ago. So it's kind of an 8-year run for the family. Brianna Olson. This one I know is a sophomore. She'll be ready to step up next year for big time. Vicki Smith. Another sophomore, Mackenzie Weber. More sophomore. I'll get it right this time, Kim. Kim Wall. And lastly, another senior, Maggie Wood. We have this. Line up for your picture. Get in there, John.
These are the
We have their jackets.
jackets that the board is giving them.
I will model it for you.
Let's see.
I'm convinced that the Olsons have the most jackets hanging in their closet. This is the 10th year in a row we've done this, and there's always been an Olson on the team. So, I could have gone a little faster. And I think the boys wanted theirs so badly at their banquet that they just had to take them, where the girls have a bunch of them hanging at home. They didn't need them as quick.
Do you want to put them on?
That doesn't match without. She's not here.
She's not here.
She's not here.
And Desiree's not here. Should have that one for, and there should be one for Tommy. Down there.
Surround my
Where do you want me in this?
How about stand
We're
behind?
gonna squeeze
Lay in
it.
the front like a front. You're the 10. You're the 10.
Oh, boy.
You guys stand behind, you're getting tall enough to handle that. Fred, can you get a little bit closer? Good, wonderful. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1 more. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Forgot. How dare I forget?
Really?
Dare I forget?
Just a quick thank you to the parents. We've had a great run with our kids, and if you go to the bowling alley and watch, we get a lot of support, even though we're small in number with our bowling program compared to all of our other programs. We have a lot of support, and we appreciate all the time and money and commitment that you make to keep your kids in the bowling alley to help us be as competitive as we are, because it does take a lot of sacrifice on your part. So thank you for your efforts, and we'll see you next April.
Now, we're going to continue on with our agenda, but now would be a good time for those of you who have homework to do, some other ventures to quietly
Just the last
I
do you get the clean Zoom? Sue, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, we're going to move on with our meeting. Next up is the report of the superintendent of schools.
Okay, just a couple items that I'd like to talk a little bit about. First of all, on the agenda, the personnel items, we have a number of people who are retiring. I've given a lot of years of service to our district. I'll start with Mr. Barker, who's our supervisor of transportation for over 15 years. And he's done a great job as far as our transportation. I know Mr. Lorenzo will say that our efficiency rating is very high, and we have one of the best in the state. And we do have a lot of territory to cover in Manchester. So he did a very good job with us for 15 years. Dorothy Paul has been a French teacher in the high school for us for 29 years. And if you know Ms. Paul, she looks like she must have started when she was like 10 or something. Outstanding teacher, French teacher, and we will miss her. Gwen Kopechnik at the high school, chemistry teacher for 15 years. Meryl Villar at our speech and language specialist right here at Ridgeway for 14 years. Linda Bleaky, our family and consumer science middle school person, been with us for 33 years. And Joyce Dworkin, a math teacher in the high school, that's been with us for 28 years. So again, I want to thank them for their service, and even though they're not here, maybe we can give them a round of applause. Also on the agenda, we will have A7 is the approval of the school calendar for next year. And looking at the school calendars, there's just a couple things for parents to take a look at. And when we do the school calendar, although Manchester is unique and we have different situations in some districts, for the most part, we try to stay consistent with many of the schools, and particularly the vocational school, because there's many of our students, or some of our students, go there part-time, so it's nice to have that consistency in the schedule. So just a couple of things you'll notice, and in November, there's a whole week off in November. I'm sure the students will be upset about that, but they still have to be out the whole week. And that was a week where it's NJEA convention. It's also a presidential election that week also. And I believe Veterans Day is also that same week. So that's a week off in November. There is an in-service day on January 31st. And that's a day that may move a little, depending if there's any school closures for inclement weather. But that day, for the elementary schools, the middle school, and the regional day schools, that will be a professional development day. But for the high school, that would be the changeover in our block scheduling from the first semester to the second semester, so to give the staff and the students and teachers a break between the semesters. There'll be one day. Again, that could move depending on if there's, it's actually the 91st day, so that 91st day will be that professional development day. The spring break is also there, and the other holidays that are normally, the teachers will start the 1st and 2nd of Labor Day, before Labor Day, and the students will start right after Labor Day, starting the 6th. And God willing, with the winter weather, we will get out fairly early next year on the 16th of June, which I think we're getting out fairly early this year, right? 15th. So that's the calendar, and that'll be, again, posted up on the website, but you have that in your packet. Mr. Webster mentioned the school musical. I was pleasure to see that. I actually was able to make the Sunday performance. I know a number of board members have made different performances. I know Mrs. Kudak made every performance, I think.
Yes, I did.
But I will say her daughter did an outstanding job. I mean, obviously as a freshman, she did a great job. What I liked about the musical was there were so many major parts. Many times you may see a musical where there's one major part and then there's all, I think we had a number of major parts. Our students did an outstanding job, really, and if you see them in the hallway, sometimes they're very quiet, but on the stage, they were not so quiet. They did a great job, and it really, I was very proud of them. I will say, I mentioned Mr. Golick and Ashley Golick, doing the sets. They were also phenomenal. They did a great job, and of course, our drama coach did an outstanding job. So again, it was a pleasure to see the musical, and I know the kids work extremely hard, as with our staff. I did have the privilege of, we had an 8th grade parent meetings to talk to parents of the 8th graders about the block scheduling for next year. We had already spoken to the current 9th, 10th, and 11th, and I was able to go to Lakehurst. Lakehurst had a very good showing. We had to get some extra chairs in the library, so I think every parent was there from Lakehurst. We had a good showing in middle school. I think the parents had some very good questions, and I think we were able to explain it, and again, we'll be putting that presentation up on the webpage so they have it. We've had a number of presentations, but obviously we'll be continuing to talk about the high school and the block schedule, but again, I think the parents were able to understand what we're looking at, and obviously I think many of them were excited about the new courses, and again, a lot of good questions there. Freshman orientation was there the other night, I think it was Monday night, and I don't know if there was an empty seat in the auditorium. It was right to the top, and Mr. Adams and his staff, I thought, did an excellent job. They talked about the main schedules and some of the electives and so forth, and then they allowed the students to go into and the parents to go into the gymnasium, or a number of our clubs and activities and programs were there with some of our staff and some of our advisors there and coaches were there to talk about the different activities. And we stressed, and I would stress from 8th grade going to 9th, please take advantage of all the different activities that are out there. I think it's important to get some participation, whether you're an athlete, whether you want to be in the musical or the play or the many forms they have. I think they did a nice job going through that. And then there'll be another presentation in the summer, I know, but certainly if parents have any questions, especially 8th grade and 9th grade coming in, don't hesitate to call the high school. They'll be glad to help. We had a situation, not unlike a lot of districts today, for our park testing, and that was something that was throughout the state, from what I understand. There was some outages, so we did not test today. There was a question of whether we would get them all up. So the decision we made early is let's not have students or any staff start something and then try to complete it or not be sure. I did get an email from, not me personally, but we all got emails from the Commissioner of Education, and the update is that the park will be up for tomorrow. It was a login situation, it wasn't anything with servers, so they plan to start tomorrow fine, but again, we'll weigh that. I want to thank the staff and the students and the parents for their flexibility, because it was something that really happened early in the morning when Mr. George called me. I'm not quite sure exactly how early that was, but it was very early. Police, we do have a budget presentation coming up on May 4th, and I'll let Mr. Lorenzen talk a little bit about that. But the one other thing I did want to speak to the community about is we have a program next Wednesday. We had the police, and actually Mr. Adams and some of the police chief and myself met today regarding an issue that's an issue in Manchester, but just as important, it's an issue in Ocean County and pretty much throughout the state, and that's the issue of the heroin situation. And I know the prosecutor, Ocean County prosecutor, has made that a priority as far as trying to attack this problem, and obviously it's a problem that affects not only people's lives, but it may take somebody's life. And it's just a growing epidemic, and it's something that's really, we need to be more educated on the problems that are through Ocean County. A lot of people in the 20s and 30s are involved, and we want to do everything we can to prepare our students when they graduate high school and then when they leave into jobs and go to colleges. They're going to have a lot more opportunities to make decisions on their own and make those choices, and we want them to make sure that they have all that information. So we are partnering with the police. We're looking at programs that we will look at next year about implementing that into the health curriculum. But there is a program next Wednesday that we're kind of co-sponsoring. The police will giving a heroin presentation on Wednesday, April 27th. Starts at 7 o'clock, but there's a registration at 6:30. It'll be in the auditorium. We will advertise it even further tomorrow, and we'll do an all-call. I would encourage all parents, especially high school parents and high school students, to attend the presentation that the police are putting on next Wednesday. It's at our high school auditorium, and it's something that's obviously a very serious epidemic, and we want to do everything we can to make sure none of our students and none of our community members in Manchester get involved with the heroin and things like that. So again, we'll promote that a little bit more, but I think it's a very worthwhile program, and that's next Wednesday, April 27th in the auditorium at the high school. That would be concluding my speech, Mr. Lorenzen. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, I almost forgot that, and I don't know how I forgot that. We do have, oh, that's because it's behind the picture, I'm sorry. We do have a very special presentation that someone's going to be recognized next month in May 12th. And as I said before in board recognition time, I'm very fortunate to have an outstanding board. We did actually have a training here prior to the 7 o'clock meeting. I am very fortunate to have some very veteran board members and some newer board members, but they're here for the right reason. I think most of you know that they don't get paid, so it's not a paid position. It's something that they feel is important. Some of them have students in the school. Some of them have students in the school, but still remain here. But one person that's going to be recognized, and it really is an outstanding achievement, for serving on our local board, on the Manchester board for 20 years. And I'd like to at least recognize right now Mrs. Walter. Thank you. We may have one, but I will give you that rock pin. It's a 20-year-old rock pin.
I have one for every 5 years now.
No, very good. But again, Mrs. Walter's been, obviously here before I was, and has done a great job with working with Dr. DeFeo, and was other superintendents, right? Dr. DeFeo, you were there for other superintendents prior to him, so.
My first year, we had 4 superintendents.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't continue that tradition while I was here. Thank you very much. But again, I have the utmost respect for the entire board, and obviously Mrs. Walter. Congratulations on 20 years of service. Thank you very much.
And Mrs. Walter will be recognized with her peers from throughout the county at the county association meeting in another week or so.
May 12th, right?
So congratulations.
Thank you, Mr.
And she's currently serving as the president of the county association.
That's correct.
Yes? Thank you.
Okay. A couple of quick housekeeping items first. The board and the administration have met the annual requirement for completing the financial disclosure and ethics forms for the upcoming school year, so I just want to let everybody know. Our 2016-2017 budget presentation will be on May 4th at 7 p.m. here. Mr. Trethewey and I will be presenting the 2016-2017 budget in depth, obviously open to the public. There are a couple resolutions on the agenda that I just want to discuss real quick. There's 2 resolutions on the agenda with Hunterdon County Educational Services Commission. They are one of the co-ops that we participate in, and they have actually gone out and went through the bid process with Apple. For those of you that don't know, Apple used to have a state contract with New Jersey. When that contract expired, they began negotiating and still have not come to new terms under state contract. So that kind of left school districts in limbo on what to do when purchasing Apple products with iPads and apps being such a big part of education. There was kind of a gray area on what school districts could and couldn't do when purchasing this equipment. This co-op will now let us purchase equipment under their bid, so there won't be any issues. So 2 resolutions on the agenda tonight are one to allow us to participate in the bid, and then the other one just identifies what equipment and services we're looking for. There's a resolution on the agenda for the New Jersey Schools Insurance Group Safety Grant. This is a grant we apply for every year, and the district has been the beneficiary of this grant for several years. What we've done in the past is we've used this money to improve safety throughout the school district. Over the past several years, we've used them for cameras, both on our school buses, and we've used them to put additional surveillance cameras in our high school. If we do receive the grant this year, we will continue to add on to our high school and may start looking at putting cameras into our middle school. And then lastly, there is a resolution on the agenda to change our website provider. We are currently with School Wires. We've been with them for the last several years. There's been some concerns with the functionality of School Wires, the usability from the public standpoint, from the staff standpoint. So myself, Mr. Trethewey, Mr. Citus, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Conover met with several companies over the last couple of weeks and sat through presentations on their web hosting services and came to a consensus that Final Site will likely give us the best opportunity to improve our website, make it more user-friendly for both the staff and the public. What this will allow us to do is it will allow us to basically revamp our website, and as we move forward, including the implementation year and then the years that follow, it will actually cost the district less money, and we anticipate this being a much better platform for both our staff, our students, and our public. Yeah, Lee, if you want to add anything on that.
Yeah, it's just a much more dynamic platform. It has it looks much more modern. It has a lot of pieces that move and allows more video, and it's so much easier it'll be so much easier for the staff to use. And it's a true what you see is what you get platform. And I think everybody's going to be really happy with it once we get it up and running.
Lee, do you expect it to be a little more interactive?
Yes, yes.
That's our report.
Very good, thank you. Are there any committee reports? I'll kick off the board member reports. As Mr. Trethewey mentioned, I was able to attend the high school musical on Saturday night. Kate was there, Mr. and Mrs. Hudak were there. Thoroughly enjoyed the musical. The kids were terrific, a lot of talent. Music was great. Pretty good sized crowd. It was very entertaining. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I also had an opportunity to get out and see a couple of athletic events, baseball and softball, over the last few weeks. And finally, this past weekend, I had the opportunity, I was invited by the state PTA to attend their conference and awards ceremony up in Princeton. Saw Mrs. Dodd there, so Manchester was represented, and that was a very nice program also. So I want to thank the state PTA for inviting me. Anyone else have anything to report?
I also attended the play. What you said. Every year I say it's my favorite to date, so I say that every year. So I keep my although I was not familiar with the play at all, so it was a totally new thing to me. So like East Side Street, kind of knew it already, but this one I did not know it, so it was very entertaining. Enjoyed it. I also went to the meeting, as Trethewey mentioned, at the middle school and at the high school last Monday night on block scheduling, and tried to give some support there, and did answer a few questions, which was cool. And I think they were off to a good start. It was nice to see the electives and the excitement of talking to the students about the electives, which was encouraging. They can broaden out and expand their horizons there. So it's good.
Very good. Anyone else? Seeing none, is there any public participation on agenda items only? Seeing none, is there any old business from the board? Mr. Lorenzen, is there any correspondence?
There's no correspondence.
Okay, we'll move into the action items under Section A, minutes, numbers 1 and 2. Can I have a motion, please?
Second?
Roll call?
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Mr. Udez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel? Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. West?
Yes. G, staff travel. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Mr. Udez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate? Mr. Webster?
Yes, the Apple Technology certification that Mr. Runcie spoke of. Need a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, D, the proprietary Apple products that we intend to purchase. Need a motion?
Make a motion?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes. The safety program grant application. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes. F, the approval of the bus evacuation drills.
I'll move it.
Second?
Roll call?
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate? Mr. Webster?
Yes. G, the web host that we just spoke about. Need a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Mr. Hudak?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dale? Mr. Hetzel? Mr. Pate? Mr. Webster?
Yes. Section 2A, administrative, numbers 1 through 10.
Second?
Just a comment here. We now have makerspace materials at 2 of our 3 elementary schools, Whiting and Ridgeway. We're looking for that elusive donor to step up to make a donation for makerspace materials for MTES, whoever that person might be out there in the audience, I don't know. So hopefully we can get that accomplished so that all of the schools will have the makerspace materials by the end of the school year. Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes. B, personnel, numbers 1 through 20. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes. C, student personnel, numbers 1 through 3. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Mr. Hudak? Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate? Mr. Webster?
Yes. Section 3A, finance, numbers 1 through 5. Need a motion, please.
I'll move it.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. Nolan? Yes. Ms. Bermudez?
Yes.
Ms. Hudak?
Yes.
Mr. Hetzel?
Yes.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes. Public participation on any items?
Yeah. Dan Staples. I just want to say my piece about Park. I'm not here as a union guy. I'm here as a parent. I just want to say that I'm really disappointed in the way that the district has handled this whole park thing, with this corrective action plan. The corrective action plan has resulted in a ton of misinformation going out to parents. For example, administrators telling kids that park is going to be a graduation requirement, which is 100% not true. So that's disappointing. And the way that the whole situation was handled, for example, I obviously refused for my daughter. I'm going to continue to refuse for my daughter. She will never take this horrible test. But when I sent my refusal letter into the middle school, a couple of weeks later, I got an email back from the middle school principal, and she said, I'd like to sit down and talk to you about Park, which I assume is part of the corrective action plan. And I would love nothing more than to talk about Park with anybody who wants to listen. But it's 9 a.m. on a Wednesday, so I want to meet with you at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. Now, I'm working. Everybody knows where I'm at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. So I asked for an alternative time. I didn't get an alternative time. And now I get curious, and now I start talking to other parents. You know, there's a group of parents that are concerned. It's called Manchester Cares About Schools. And I posted the email in that group, and I said, hey, listen, other parents, did you guys get this? Some parents said, no, I refused, and my refusal never even got acknowledged. I never heard anything from them. Or, well, I never got an invitation to come into the school and meet. So now I'm starting to feel that different parents are getting treated different ways about this whole refusal situation. And it's just disheartening and it's disappointing to see so much cheerleading for this test when I'm watching boards of education that are standing up and they're passing resolutions and they're going to the Department of Education and they're saying, this thing isn't right. This thing is not good for education. It's not good for our kids. We're losing instructional time. The results are slow coming back. The test is horrible. Today, the whole computer system crashed and nobody knew what to do. And it's a statewide thing. And the Commissioner of Education says, oh, we didn't know and that's unacceptable. That's great. It's unacceptable. But we spent so much time and effort pitching people to take this thing and the computer goes down and it's gone. That never once happened with HESPA, which is interesting because all the studies show that paper and pencil test kids score higher than they do on computers. And if you've not watched them hover around this little tiny Chromebook, trying to use all the little manipulatives, and when the calculator's in radians and not degrees, and you can't tell the kid to switch it to degrees, even though, because the manual says you can't, even though the kid doesn't know what a radian is because they're taking the Algebra 1 test, all that stuff becomes problematic. So, long story short, I refused for my daughter. Then I find out, she comes home and she tells me, Dad, you know, I found out that my teacher, Miss Savilli, is pulled out because she's going to be the park coordinator. So she's pulled out of class for 18 days. And the first thing that I thought of was Mr. Pate back at the board retreat, January, that said, you know, pupil contact time is absolutely the most important thing. Having that kid in the classroom with the teacher, getting an education, is the most important thing we want. We don't want people getting pulled out for, I think curriculum was pulling people out, and IEP meetings and all this stuff. We want the teacher in the room educating the kid. That's what we want. So then I find out that this teacher gets pulled out. In the park manual, it says that the test coordinator should be a principal or a designee. There's a high amount of responsibility that goes along with that job. It's an administrative job. So I know Mr. George is the be-all, end-all, and then obviously the superintendent, but there needs to be somebody in there. It should not be a classroom teacher's job. My daughter is in honors 7th grade math, and her teacher got pulled out for her to not have that contact for all of these days because the teacher is shuffling papers, doing an administrator's job. And that's horrible. Now I know that in the budget that you want to hire an elementary VP, that you want to have a second elementary vice principal. I have feelings about that, but that money might be well spent to hire a guidance director. You know, I went to Jackson. I hear a lot about Jackson and Manchester. Well, in Jackson they have guidance directors, and guidance directors would make a good test coordinator. There's an administrator who could handle that test coordinator job. Now you're not pulling classroom teachers out of job, negatively impacting my daughter's education, so that you can shuffle the park. I mean, it adversely affects me no matter what. She's not going to take the thing, but then now her teacher gets pulled away, so park is still hurting her. And it's a shame. It really is disappointing. We're not doing anything new today, and then the substitute they brought in, yes, certificated, but it's somebody who retired a few years ago, who was my Algebra 1 teacher 25 years ago, and was great 25 years ago, but is now retired, and is coming in. You need that continuity, you need that instructor, and I don't want to see her get pulled out for stuff like this. It shouldn't be happening. And I think that any parent would agree with me, and I think that the board would agree with me. So I just want to make sure that I'm not rambling here. The other thing is, you guys have a right to provide a thorough and efficient education to kids. That's not happening in these couple of weeks for Park. We got this for-profit company that's coming in. These kids are not learning anything new. You got classes, if you look at the schedules, even in high school, and I'm not faulting the administrators because they did the best of what they could. But you have to make these schedules where the classes you don't see your kids for 2 weeks straight, and then you see them and they're all burnt out because they just got done getting lobotomized by this test for 2 hours. It's crazy, and it needs to stop. And the people that are making the rulings here are not in the classroom with the kids. You talk to any teacher off the record in a spot where it's not going to cost them their job, they will tell you this thing is horrible. You talk to the administrators, you're going to hear a whole different story. And I understand why that is. But that's unfortunate, because if you talk to a mechanic and the mechanic told you don't drive a certain type of car, you're going to listen to that mechanic because that's their job. So I would like to see this board adopt a resolution to tell the New Jersey Department of Education that you don't support Park, that it is harmful to students, and that we should be changing out. The Freehold superintendent tweeted out today when the system went down, this is not what we pay, this is not what we should be doing, this is not the direction education should be going to. And I would like to see more superintendents speak out, and I would like to see more boards of ed speak out, because the teachers are wholly unsupported. The teachers aren't allowed to publicly say, we don't support this test. In the classroom, we're employees of the board. We do your job. So, so you're not going to hear us say bad things, but so the administrators and the boards of ed need to do that. So the 9 a.m. on a Wednesday thing was a problem. The principal or designee, I got that, I got that, I got that, and I got that. So that's my piece. I rambled, I'm sorry, I didn't write a speech.
Thanks, Dan. I don't know that we disagree with a lot of what you said. As you know, we're not really calling the shots here. We're not really happy as a board with what's going on in a number of cases. Obviously, the rollout of this whole process has been a disaster. And although we may not have spoken out as a board, I know individually we have spoken to both our representatives and folks in Trenton. But right now, it seems like it's full steam ahead with what we're doing. And personally, I don't see with this governor anything changing in the next year and a half. So I understand what you're saying, and I agree with a lot of what you said. But we're behind a rock and between a rock and a hard place at this point in time. This is basically the state mandate, and how it's going to proceed, I don't know. I said 8-10 months ago that this is either going to deliver on what it promised or it's going to fall flat on its face, and it looks like it's headed in that direction. Now, how quickly that's going to happen, I don't know at this point.
But as a board, as a parent, we need you as the board to stand up for us. And I don't feel as a parent of this district that you are all supported the parents that are refusing this test. We are being dismissed. My daughter is being punished because she's missing time at school and she's being given detention. I don't understand that.
I'd like
Please.
To, please let me know about this. There shouldn't be any detention for not taking.
Well, what happens is I'm bringing her in late because she's being expected to sit and read for 2 hours. So instead of doing that, I bring her in late, she's getting a demerit. For every demerit she gets, now she's up past 9 points or whatever, and she's being told that she has to have detention, and I don't think that's fair.
I can certainly, I'll look into that part of it. But obviously I don't want you certainly has a right to, you have a right to refuse to take the test, and I'm hoping that there's no pressure putting on you. We are required to say these are the things that the state says we need to say about the park test. We want to make sure that you have the information, but in all essence, you're the parent and you make that choice.
Right.
As
And
a
if we're
school district, we are required to give that test, and that's their requirement. We have to give that. So the difference between an opt in out, we really can't opt out because that's saying the school is not giving the test. We don't have that authority to do that.
I understand.
But we certainly understand and respect your right. We will explain what we use the park for, because I think that's an important thing. I mean, I know whatever, we don't use park as a placement test, we don't use it as a grade test. We certainly try not to put any pressure on our students. We use it just as one source of information, knowing that, hey, it's not the end all, and it's certainly not perfect, and it's not one test that we would base everything with our students. Obviously, our staff has their students for 180 days. They are best to give that assessment for grade. So we don't do those things, and we want to make sure that parents understand it. But again, once that information is out there, you certainly have the right to make those decisions as a parent.
Right, but
So,
what
yeah,
I'm
I
saying is that
appreciate
the student shouldn't be punished for
No.
I'm keeping her home, it's my choice.
I agree.
So don't punish my daughter by giving her detention because she's got 10 demerits.
I can certainly look into it.
Thank you.
That part. No, that's no problem.
Okay.
Just, and one or two things when Dan, I appreciate your comments here, but I think, I don't like to compare ourselves with other districts, but you did mention Jackson, and every elementary school that has anywhere near the population that our elementary schools have a vice principal, so they're way ahead of us there. And as far as and we have always had, and this board has always done, we have put our stress on the staff. If you look at our comparative spending guide, we have one of the lowest ratios of staff to students, because we have a lot of staff to students. One of the things that we have the highest ratio of comparable districts is administrators to students. But that's because we're putting our money into the teachers and the assistants. So when we don't make these judgments easy to go for an extra vice principal or another vice principal. But if you looked at every district, and I've looked at every district in Ocean County, any district that has the size that we have in elementary school, in the 400, 500, almost 600 at one time at MTS, they don't share a vice principal, they have a separate one. So yes, could we have a vice principal and then look at test coordinators and all that would be fine. But I think our priority right now is that vice principal that gets us the supervision we need for elementary schools that have over 550 students. I think every school in Jackson that has that number has one, as is Berkeley, as is Tom River, as is Lacey, everyone. So, and we want obviously our staff and our students to have that extra supervision also. So I would just say that. And the other things that you mentioned, and again, I agree with Mr. Webster, I don't totally disagree with some of the things you said, but you know that there are requirements to have, and if there's misinformation from the staff, I certainly would be more than happy to correct, but they shouldn't, I mean, our staff, if our staff member is telling them something that's incorrect, I certainly would have no problem correcting that. So, you know, we try to get the right information out. We're not trying to force anybody to take the test, and we're not trying to encourage people not to take the test. We're just trying to get the information out that this is where it is.
Yeah, my biggest beef is just that the classroom teacher got pulled out to shuffle papers for Park. That's ridiculous. That should never have happened. No, it doesn't happen in every building. In the high school, the guidance does it. And actually, I'll let Mr. George answer that question, because he knows more than I do.
And nobody got pulled out 18 days. That would not be. And I think Mrs. Driver addressed that. There are certain days that she was out, but not 18 days.
Do you have any idea what the number is? Just since I did have to bring it up in January because I was concerned about it then, I'd like to follow up on that. Do you have any idea? I mean.
No, and I would think in some cases when they would be proctoring the 5 days, and they might be
She's the test coordinator, right? She's not administering the test, she's organizing it for the school.
If she was giving, she would be in the test area because her students are taking the test, and they may not be proctoring the test, they may be a coordinator, but they would still be missing those days that their students are taking the test. That's my point. But I certainly will check into the days and we'll do that, but there's no, and I talked to Mrs. Driver about this, I don't believe there's anything that's out 18 days for missing instruction.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have that.
That is a concern of mine because I did bring that up in January. That was something I'd seen trends in other districts going that way. I was hoping we were doing that.
Well, unfortunately, we just don't have
I know, but
the
I'm just
administrative and
I'd like to know
guidance staffs that
still,
we'd like to
Okay, Don, I
have.
understand that, but we.
So we gotta look to minimize, and we're shuffling, obviously, and
I would just like to know the number of days.
sometimes it doesn't always work out the way you'd like.
I'd like for all of us to find out what the number of days, just so we have that. Knowledge is power, and I'd like to know what it is.
We know.
Can I just ask, can the board just clarify what the policy is exactly for non-testing students? And
Yeah, and I think I had it on the webpage, maybe it's not there anymore, but bottom line is if we don't have, I don't have the ability to be able to say everybody who's not testing to go and hire substitutes to supervisors. So they're welcome to stay in the testing area, but again, they're not sitting and staring, and I know that's a big terminology. We ask that they have resources that they have, they certainly can read, they certainly can do things that.
can they do, all right, last year, I was told that they can only read. Are they allowed to bring anything else? Can they write?
I think if it's anything, yeah, they certainly could write. Anything that's not distracting, as we would say. I mean, obviously, they were talking about bringing in a video game,
Okay.
obviously not appropriate. We want alternate instruction. I can't give them alternate instruction because I've
That's
been hiring
understandable.
teachers to do
Okay.
this. But they certainly, as long as they're not a distraction to the test and they're there, that's fine. That's really what we look for.
Okay, now if they came into school and I know sometimes they go to, some of them go to the auditorium or have been going to the
Well,
auditorium.
if students arrive late to school, we can't put them into that testing situation because then that would be a disruption.
Right, but
to the
now
test.
then they get into the, now they're late to school and they're getting the demerit thing. Is that how that's working?
I guess, and I'll look into that. I would say if you just, leave your name here and I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
I'll double check that. Okay.
All right, thank you.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying. That, there would be, the only way that they would be in that, I don't say holding area, but in a central spot is if they come late and then you don't want to disrupt the testing situation by putting a student in the class halfway through the test.
Right,
But if
because,
they're there from the beginning, they'll be in the classroom. If they're not there from the beginning, if they come in late, not to disturb them, they would be someplace.
right, because it appeared to me today after speaking, to Mr. Adams about the policy, that it was almost more beneficial to me to keep my daughter home for the whole day rather than bring her in late because then she wouldn't be getting a demerit.
We don't want to encourage that.
Correct, which is, and I thought I was doing a good thing by bringing her in late because at least she was getting her other classes, but in the end, she ended up getting in trouble for it, so.
I'll certainly check into that. If
Thank
again, just leave the name and I'll get back to you on it.
Sure.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How many vice principals are at the high school?
High school, well, there are 3 vice principals, but in many cases, and we look at school, we have one vice principal that shares as an athletic director and a vice principal. So when you look at different high schools, there may be like 2 vice principals and then a person's directly hired as an athletic director. That's all they do. In Manchester, what we do is we share that person. He does athletic director's job here, and he also serves as a vice principal. So it's basically a shared position. So in our areas, and they also have content areas too. So there's 3 vice principals, but one of them is half of a vice principal and half of a athletic director. Some schools have just athletic directors, strictly that's all they do. Ours is kind of a combination. So when you look at different school districts, some school districts may have 2 vice principals, okay, and you have 3. Well, no, because you also have a person dedicated to be the athletic director. So in our case, we have, technically we're listed as 3 vice principals, but that vice principal serves 2 purposes, the athletic director.
So it would be fair to say there's 2.5
Yeah,
vice
probably,
principals
2 3/4
to the 900 students, but we need to
yes.
have 2 principals for the 900 elementary students?
We have one
We have
vice
one,
principal.
but you wanna bring in another one.
Well, no, we have one vice principal that goes between the 2
Right.
buildings. So we want to have one vice principal, one in each building. So in MTS, for example, we have 550 students, and I think we're very similar to that in Ridgeway. Probably about 470, 450, something like that. So that's, so in the elementary situation we have. Now, we don't have supervisors necessarily. We have 1 elementary supervisor that goes through 3. In the high school, we have 2 supervisors that go between high school and middle school. So there's some functionality there too. We also have security guards in the high school too. And then every school is a little unique. Elementary is a little different than high school. So you would never measure just how many students you have. I mean, obviously there's some little different more demands in the high school. But I think, looking at the elementary schools, I think it's important to get that extra supervision, and looking at all the other districts around, they have that extra person there, that one person that stays in there, in addition to the principal. Now, some districts call them supervisors, but that supervisor is strictly in that building with the principal in the elementary school. I mean, our Whiting school wouldn't, because our Whiting school is a little smaller. It's got about 240 in there. And there are some schools that have a vice principal, but there's also some schools in Ocean County that a small elementary school wouldn't have that vice principal. But the ones that have comparable size to ours, they all have vice principals.
And I think if you look at the state spending guide, the last time, I haven't looked at the one that just came out yesterday, but for a district our size, I think the average number of administrative personnel, including the supervisors that he just talked about, principals, vice principals, et cetera, I think typically has somewhere between 25 and 27. We don't even have 20. We have like 18, I think, or 19 is the number.
I think the comparative spending guide, the newest comparative spending guide just came out. It was up on the DOE website. I believe I looked at it yesterday. Our administrative cost is the 18th lowest out of 69 school districts. And basically what that factors in your personnel and then any other costs associated with that personnel. So we are currently the 18th lowest. Now, in previous years, we've been as low as 9th, 10th. We've had some retirees in the last couple of years, so that's had an impact on the ranking. It's pushed us up a little bit, but that will all level out again. But we are one of the lowest out of our district factor group, which is K-12, with 1,800 to 3,500 students.
And that's not saying that's where we want to be. Previously, when there was a vote on the budget, 9 years out of 10, the budget would go down, and we'd have to keep scrimping and saving and trying to figure out what to do. State aid in this district is a problem because of the high percentage of seniors. We get very little state aid, not even 10 or 11% out of our budget. With a district with our demographics, we should be up around 40. But the way the formula plays out, we get hurt by that. So I'm not saying we want to be up around 25, 27, but we for years we wanted another VP for these 2 large elementary schools. Certainly we'd like to have some other supervision, but with the 2% cap, you just can't get there. You're lucky if you hold on. A lot of districts are starting to lay off teachers and increase their class sizes. We're trying to find ways to avoid doing that. And we have so far, but we're running out of ideas here. How do you keep saving money to make up for the fact we don't get the state aid we think we deserve, and then we're capped at 2%, that year over year the tax levy can't increase by more than 2%. That's the struggle we face here in Manchester.
Well, that's tricky, because now you're talking about a six-figure administrative position that, I mean, on one hand, we want to cut costs, but on the other hand, we had an administrative position. And I like the administrators in this district. I know it doesn't always seem that way, but I really do. I think that they work really hard. But at the end of the day, if a lot of them weren't here, it's the teachers that have the contact with the kids that make the education. That's where the money needs to go. And I know that when Helena tried out for track, there was 150 kids that tried out for boys and girls track in the middle school. No assistants, none. That's a major safety issue. If you have money to spend, bring back some of those assistants that we never got back after all the Christie layoffs. Make sure that the textbooks are up to date in all the different classes. Because I mean, I know that a lot of them are, but there's some that could stand to be updated. There's technology that could be brought in. I know we've had a lot of technology, but all the money that's going to directly positively impact education. And I know, unfortunately, I know about education. The teachers' workload has increased a lot over the last several years with all the state mandates and things they do. We can't hire somebody else to delegate out our work for us. And when the administrators say we're overworked, I feel for them, everybody's overworked. But to just be able to just hire another $110,000 position and say, here, let's spread the workload around, we don't have that luxury. And I think, so safety needs to be the priority, and things that positively impact the kids, directly impact the kids in the classroom. That's got to be number one.
And I think we just said that that's what our focus has been, and that's why if you look at the spending guide, you're going to see the bulk of the money is going into the classrooms, more so than other districts, believe it or not.
Yeah, we have one of the lowest ratios between staff and students, but we have one of the highest ratios between administrators and students. I think that's really the guide, and I understand it. That's really where you want to put the emphasis. But again, I know it's nice to say six figures, and so that vice principal is taking the place of, I guess, two teachers, because two teachers will be six figures. So when you look at it, probably more. So, I mean, I think we've really stressed the fact that we have low class sizes in the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high school, and to keep that there. Now, we've lost a lot of enrollment over the last couple of years, and we haven't really cut a lot of staff. In fact, the only staff we've ever lost is maybe through attrition, or someone who was retired and we didn't replace. But we're talking about maybe one or two, and we've lost a lot of enrollment. So that's not where we look, we lose students, so let's lose a teacher. The advantage is if we have fewer students, then our ratio between students and teachers are even smaller, which is even better. That's really what you want to stress.
Yeah, just to add on, again, this is all the comparative spending area. We are the 9th lowest student-to-teacher ratio out of the 69 districts. We have an average of 10.4 kids per teacher in this district. Now, again, it's very easy, like I said, to throw a $100,000 administrator out. But when you look at the student-teacher ratio, does that mean we should have less teachers because our ratio should be higher? Of course not. That's not what we're looking to do. It's great that we can have a student-teacher ratio that's that low, because that provides more individual instruction for students. So, I mean, it's not as easy as just throwing six-figure numbers out there and saying, we don't need this, we need this, we need this. It's not like that. I mean, that can work from both sides of the table. And you also see that when we do our budget presentation, we do put our money in instruction. I think we were 38 out of 69 school districts as far as instructional costs and budgetary costs per pupil. The majority of our money is going to the teaching staff. It is going into the classroom. It is going into instructional supplies. It is going where it's supposed to go. But you will see when we do the budget presentation on May 4th, we are handicapped a little bit in our budget with the amount of fixed expenses that we have. They're significant expenses like health benefits and salaries and pension costs and liability insurance, those types of things. They represent close to, I think it was 80% of the budget. So it only leaves us about 20% of the budget for everything else. So we do the best we can. It's always a balancing act, but like I said, it's very easy to pick one thing out and say, well, we shouldn't do this, but you know what? There's always something. Like I said, maybe do we have class sizes of 20? You could, but that's not what we're striving to do, because to do that, you're eliminating teachers. We're not looking to do that. So, we gotta all work together. The VP has nothing to do with workload. it has to do with safety. It's not a workload issue, it's a safety issue. You know, we feel it's necessary, we've discussed it with the board, and, you know, it's something we've considered for a couple of years, and we feel now is a time where it's needed. We do have the population that's over at Ridgeway, you know, it can be challenging at times. There are very specific needs and very specific issues that need to be addressed there, and having this administrator will allow us to help the students, to help these kids get through some of these things, and we don't have that.
Good question. Anything else? Is there any other business from the board members? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.